This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She takes one seat, she wins to her books. If both women win, she goes Darren Forbes. It's a, haha, he's not gonna expect any money from her, but he said he'd give her $200 if she was right. Oh.
Okay, moving on to item A. Our board minutes. Any discussions on this? Jackie, corrections?
There are no discussions from my point of view. Thank you.
Jason,
I'm good, Jackie's good, I know it's over.
do I hear a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Bond resolution for digger truck and dump truck. Minnie, would you like to explain that?
Sure. So originally this was going to be one large bond resolution for the digger, the dump, and the fire truck, which is item C. But upon speaking with bond counsel, we can go out for a longer term with the fire trucks because it has a longer life. So it was their recommendation and my thought as well, that if we split the two of them and put them in two different ones, then we only have to go out for permissive referendum on one of them, because the fire truck will go longer than 10 years. The digger and the dump will only do a 10-year bond on.
Because that's their expected useful life.
I'll make the motion to approve the bond resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
It's a roll call vote. Oh, each one is a roll call vote because it's financing.
We still do need first and second. We got that,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Trustee Kelly,
Aye.
trustee Holder,
Aye.
trustee Leon,
Aye.
and trustee Galvin.
Aye.
And mayor votes aye as well. Basically the same story now you just told us for item C. Make a motion to accept.
I want the next one.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, and another roll call vote.
Mhm.
Trustee Kelly.
Aye.
Trustee Holder.
Aye.
Trustee Leon.
Aye.
Trustee Galvin. Aye. And Mayor Devlin, aye as well. Okay, item D is the municipal snow and ice agreement, which we have every year. For you, those of you that are new on the board, that is what the state reimburses us for plowing the state road. It adjusts every year for the labor contracts and how much it would cost us to do it. Is it every year or is it, did I see it was 5 years?
Every year, it's every year.
Every year.
The supplemental now is every year. I think we did a blanket agreement and then there's a supplemental every year.
And that's just to reflect the cost of equipment and materials and wages.
Any questions? Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes as well. We have a retirement at the wastewater plant. It's Stuart Baird. He's been here a long time. Does anyone know the exact number? I know-
He said in his letter, I think, how
let's
many
see,
years they thought, or in a long time.
Yeah, it doesn't, I don't think it says here.
62.
He was on the board when we came on.
He's turned 62, but I bet
13.
he's been there,
25 years.
yeah, at least 25.
13. But we thank him very much for his years of faithful service and his expertise and his connections with the health department and the state. And we wish him well in retirement. And I guess we have to approve his retirement. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Except the reservation.
Accept resignation.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wish Stuart well in his retirement. Electric department has a surplus vehicle they want to.
I think you,
They want you to declare it surplus.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
oh,
It's an old vehicle that they want you to declare as surplus so it could be sold.
And don't the vehicles go somewhere else and then go to the electric department? So by the time they're done, it's probably surplus
This
or.
particular truck was the original, a long time ago, Peter Crowhaw's superintendent truck, and then it became Mark Pratt's.
Oh, is this the one with the hole in the
Yeah,
other side floor?
yeah.
Time for it to be
Truck 10.
surplus, right?
They got the 2 new RAV4s, so Kimball gave his truck to Mark, and then Kimball took one of the RAVs, and,
The hybrid RAV.
Yep.
Or the electric RAV4.
Yep.
They're cute. I've seen it, yeah.
Happy little things.
Mhm.
Okay, so do I have a motion to declare the electric department's vehicle surplus?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Consider themselves surplus. And beautification, same thing. We have to declare their vehicle surplus. And once again, you can probably see through the floorboards.
Yeah, that was totally true.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Other vehicle surplus. Okay, item H, proposed local law, which would be the smoking ban in all public places in the village. That would include Main Street, all the streets. I think the parks were already non-smoking.
No, they weren't.
Oh, it's a back up.
Not officially.
yeah.
It was a resolution, but no law,
Okay,
so no
then-
teeth.
So now it will also include the,
Well, this one is very broad. It includes all public places, period. It could be on McKinley Street, it's not just limited to Main Street.
in the village.
It's Sentinel Road, yep. Any public place. So for example, somebody could stand on the lawn in front of the Hampton Inn and be okay.
But
They
not on the
stepped
road.
onto the street, they'd be not okay. Because that's private property, the Hampton Inn. And I think it's an enforcement nightmare, but that's because we cannot discriminate between cigarettes, pipes, vaping, and
Tongs.
bongs,
Tongs.
anything. So you can say that the police will use their discretion, but if the only tickets that they give out are for cannabis, and they never give one out for smoking, then it'll be selective enforcement, and it'll be,
And the recommendation is to implore the chief to make sure.
well, I mean, he
Enforce
doesn't,
it.
he doesn't think it's going to be an enforcement nightmare. I happen to disagree only because since you have started discussing this, I've taken more notice, especially on Main Street, how many people smoke.
Mhm.
It's incredible. We're not just talking about the restaurant workers, we're talking about our public tourists.
Mhm.
A lot of them are obese and they smoke.
Drew, I like how you threw that little extra one in there, unrelated to, but
Well, I mean, you just look.
I appreciate sharing observation.
We do not have, everybody's not an Iron Man that walks down Main Street.
Oh, sure.
What type of signage are we gonna need?
You need warning.
I like the Mirror Lake Inn one where it's like, it's very friendly, where the parking, this is for Mirror Lake Inn, or like cottage parking.
No
I'm
hard
sorry,
feelings.
No hard feelings, there's no smoking,
Well,
sorry.
If it's a law, you don't say that. It's like you're either cross the line.
Oh, we won't have hard feelings.
Are we in the discussion phase?
I don't
No.
think there hasn't been a motion. I'll move. I'll second. No,
So now we're in the discussion phase. Initially, I was all in for this law. I thought it was a great idea. I think having a non-smoking Lake Placid would be great, but the feedback I've finally gotten from business owners, all but a couple, if you say 2 out of 20 think it's a good idea. They think it's really going to have a negative impact on business in town, singling out smokers. And this is really Main Street centric too, because on the outer edges of the village, there's probably little nooks and crannies where you could smoke on somebody's private property. But on Main Street, there isn't. There's no private spot where you can go and have a smoke. So we're worried about not only retail customers, maybe they're only downtown for 20 minutes, but more like the people going out to dinner, going out to the bar. we're really singling out the smokers in this.
I had a conversation with Jen about when your property went, and with Jen, and I said, so what was your take on it when you were initially contemplating this? Did you ask employees? And they were like, oh yeah, they were all gonna quit. They were all gonna quit. Did they? And she said no.
I'm not talking just about employees. That is a concern for sure.
No, I get it. I mean, I know.
But the vast majority in the long run, it's not as bad as, predictions are wrong. The trend is
Yes.
less smoking. If we markedly class it as a non-smoking community, net, well, in my opinion, it'll be beneficial.
And I do agree with that, but we're passing this law. We don't have a signage plan, which is, as we all know, there's gonna have to be a ton of it for it to be enforceable, and we don't have a marketing plan yet. So we're just passing the, and basically businesses are out of luck. And so
Well,
that's,
but there's a time frame, correct? I mean, this law does not go into effect tomorrow.
Well, almost.
Probably
Pretty
about
much.
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Well,
It
goes
says
into effect
immediately
when-
upon filing, so yeah.
And usually it's 2 weeks.
So speaking to Mark, like, I know I may have to, there is a sentiment from business owners in Main Street that it will negatively impact. But the other component is, it's like our parks. Like with many families going to parks and just depending on the tourists or depending on the situation, there's like smoking around kids. And if I'm even ignoring the signage, which is, so if I had to make a choice per se between, being empathetic with businesses or be more protectionist of the like families that use the parks and so on and so forth. And I would,
oh yeah, parks, absolutely.
and then we can always, then not into the cart before the horse. We can, how long you've been on board, like 4 or 5 months now, you see how much we talk about all the different peripheral stuff and what is the movement on the underlying movement. If we get this moving, and then we can actually do all the sort of the details that come along, and then it can only be amended if somehow it doesn't seem to quite fit as well, but at least something is done.
The more I think about it too, it's like, I don't know if Janet, this works in language wise, like in the presence of somebody else. Because like you're walking up Marcy Road coming from Main Street and you want to smoke a butt walking up the road and you're not around anybody, who are you affecting? Whereas on Main Street, when I go out for a run and I have to walk through somebody's cloud of smoke, that really bothers me as a non-smoker.
Yeah.
So is there,
I think that would be tough too. I mean,
You never
be in
know.
the presence of somebody. Is it 6 feet from somebody? Is it 20 feet from somebody? Is it?
You're introducing a lot of gray areas.
Yeah.
Enforcement nightmare, even more so.
Well,
But I respect where you're coming from, and you're getting feedback from people, and you're relaying it to the board, which is what you do.
and it does annoy me, we didn't get feedback in the public hearing that I'm getting it when I said, this is coming up, we're gonna vote on this.
I have not heard anyone else. Like, I don't know. if
And it was funny, it's all non-smokers at that meeting too. There's 15 people, they're all business owners. Well, one was the librarian, and they're like, no, this is silly. This is way too restrictive.
Hmm.
So that's.
I don't think anybody would argue with parks, public places, building, obviously in bars, restaurants, hotels, they're already non-smoking by law,
Mhm.
not because of this. And this building's non-smoking. I think what you've got, it's a gap right now are parks in our community.
Mhm. I think it's so tied with cannabis use. No one's saying, well, we can't believe cannabis is legal.
You
However,
just can't smoke it. You can have a gummy in a park.
but those were those situations where it's, if we weren't so tourist-centric and having a different group come in and having the same issues pop up over and over again, then maybe this might be too restrictive from my perspective. But if we want to set the tone of like what, our visitors, can expect and what our locals can say, I know there's some that would probably feel that's too restrictive as well. But I feel like we're just setting the
I
tone
don't
of
know,
what we
kind
want
of
to expect.
Mark, personally, if you leave the bar at night and you gotta walk home from the bar and you live on McKinley Street and you wanna light a cigarette on McKinley Street while you're walking home, I'm a former smoker, so I've done it. Nobody's
that's-
around, it's not hurting anybody.
But that's like 3:30 in the morning and that's.
Well, not
then it comes-
necessarily, it depends on what time you leave the bar.
Well,
But,
There are
Getting a
some,
little bit older. Like, every
I
once
don't
in a
even
while,
go anymore.
I was gonna say,
Too old for that.
3 in the morning is like something that like we wake up to go to the bathroom, you know? So
Yeah.
there are
But,
some people
you
who
know-
are telling me that, and I don't necessarily believe them, that if you opt out, there will be people who will not come. Because there are people who look for resorts, communities. that-
Sure, that's true.
Yeah,
But net, I think what's
Yeah.
better overall.
I mean, I agree with parks for sure, because I don't like my kid being around it
Yeah, no.
if necessary. And Main Street, it is a pain when you're walking around Main Street and there's people blowing smoke in your face.
Mhm.
It stinks and,
but there's a lot of them.
oh, I know, there's a ton of them.
There's less every year.
I guess you ask Bruce how many butts he sweeps up every day.
Oh, that's great. I mean, we pick up in front of our place.
Yeah.
They missed the thing at smoke signals now.
Well,
But I bet
technically,
you that's all employees too.
Oh, well, no,
They have a lot of.
no, they
There's a
smoke
lot
on
of
that.
people waiting.
I see the employees smoking out that, so.
Well, and here's another question I have. So like where Merrill Thomas is, I think I'm thinking the right thing. There's like a little porch that goes off the side of Merrill Thomas where the sidewalk goes
private
back.
property.
So that's considered, so they could stand right on the edge of the sidewalk and smoke a cigarette.
Mhm. Or a joint.
And Janet, maybe you do or don't have an answer on this one, but we're like, take the parking or the sidewalk where it's 6 feet of clearway, it's granite, and then it goes to the black brick. Where's
Well,
the,
for
where's the
example,
village own, where does?
so let's talk about that. Let's say you're coming down by the High Peaks Resort and there's that little indentation by Derek Cooper.
That'd be private property.
That'd be private property.
How about in front of the
We've
dancing bear?
we've always maintained that, no, that's probably public. We've always maintained that down in front of the Northwoods Inn and the ski and board shop and Bossy's was their property.
Not anymore.
Well, we're
We're gonna pave it. We're gonna do the pavers.
That sidewalk from the Northwoods
In
Inn
the past,
to the parking lot.
It's in the right of way, so.
Okay.
but it's been there, so we've told them, we'll provide the materials, but you have to do that. And then in smoke signals, there's an apron that comes out that's theirs until it hits our sidewalk. There may be a few other places where I call it an apron, but it's not ours. I mean, technically, most of the properties on Main Street go to the center of the street. So their ownership, subject to the rights of the public to use the road and the sidewalk. So ownership is a very muddy, gray area if you talk about ownership, but public use is a different story. But Peter, you remember when all that, just what we were talking about, Northwoods Inn down from there to your parking, the Thunderbird was always considered private property. We weren't maintaining it. The Palace Theater. I don't, somebody stand outside there and smoke. Oh, I don't know.
Even though the village did all the work now for
Yeah.
replacing. Because it's in the right of way, or most of it is.
Well, nobody ever knew where the center line was.
Exactly.
So Ivan just drew it up and said it's here, and there we go.
You-
That's a true story.
Yeah.
He did, and yeah. And the DOT sort of said, okay. I mean, the place in front of the Bass Building, you know how it steps down there? That we always consider private property. Which
Which will be plantings now.
Yeah, but then you've got that upper area that's sort of under there, well, the Bass overhang. But that's probably, I mean,
Which if it rains, that's where most people smoke.
But will that be legal if it's underneath their building? Yeah.
yes, it will be.
And if we pass this law tonight, will Main Street then designate areas like that? And then will you get people conglomerating in those areas? And then you'll have smoky sections rather than diffusing. I'm just trying to throw out all the thoughts.
Seems like there's a lot of places to smoke on Main Street, more than I thought.
I mean, private
Well,
property.
now you take the position now that it is public sidewalk. I mean, when we had that town village board meeting, the presenter said, and what did she didn't use public spaces. She said publicly owned and maintained, I think were her words. So we could argue we maintain all of that.
Mhm.
Means,
I wasn't. I'm still.
Any more discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve, to.
it's already been made.
Oh, it has?
That's why we're.
Yeah, we're in discussion. We're in
Yeah,
discussion.
all right, we voted?
Just waiting to see if there's any more discussion.
Said my piece.
Okay, so let's, all those in favor of passing the proposed smoking law, as it stands.
Aye.
All those against?
Aye, no.
So then this passes 3-1. Thank you for your due diligence on this. Okay, I have I pulled this out of the packet, but I don't think I see it on. the-
Yeah, I was going to say, I apologize, it's not on the items, but yes, it was in your packets. I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is for Jared Hathaway.
Yes,
Okay. Let's see, I don't,
no, it's not on there.
that's okay.
I'm
Jared
sorry.
Hathaway meets all the requirements to go from third-class lineman, step 3. Successfully completed his first year of school. Proposes a Class B CDL, he possesses, I'm sorry, as of November 5th. We have 18 months from his date of hire for third-class lineman's promotion. Has my approval as superintendent. Effective November 5th, I recommend Jared be promoted to third-class lineman, step 3, to pay rate of $34.06 per hour. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
In accordance with the
Union contract.
union collective bargaining agreement.
So we do have, and I believe this probably has something more to do with the union enforcement, but I'm sure he's worthy. But when you look at his rate of pay, I'm just wondering do we have a bigger issue of it being in line, out of line? This young man is 23 years old and is going to be making 70, I know.
Maybe Dana could answer this better than me, but this is the union contract. It is what has been agreed on in the past. I don't.
Position.
And he's certainly, huh?
He's 20.
Oh, he's 20. That's nice. Good for him. Okay, so. But the bigger question is, what's going to happen? I mean, I can tell you right now, Horton's already started increasing their MEOs and their heavy equipment operators because as the new tier 6, there's really no benefits. So now we're going to be competing, any village employee is going to be competing. So I'm just thinking of the highway and, I mean, this is.
I will, if I can address, our last round of union contracts, the highway, water, and sewer all took a larger increase based upon the dollar
Try
amount
to
that
close the gap.
the electric department
Okay.
makes.
And was that prior to COVID?
No, that was during COVID.
During. So,
The first year of COVID. right?
Yeah.
I think the one thought is that there was a request to shorten the on-the-job period of time to move to a different lineman.
That's still
And-
in the works.
And if that was going to happen, then that would be a reopening of the collective bargaining agreement because it's a term of employment. And maybe one of the quid pro quos would be to lower the starting of the new guys coming in the electric department I'm speaking
The
about.
grounds been yours.
So this step process, after the gentleman or anybody completes all the training, it's just automatic.
Yes.
It's
As
not
long as
based
there's-
on performance, it's not based, it's just, you've done your training, you're now entitled to this rate of pay.
Provided you-
As long as there's a position available. That is written in our, as long as there's a position available.
So there's an opening for a lineman 3 step, or lineman 3 step 3.
So as far as the steps are
That's the
concerned,
lowest step, isn't it?
step 3 or third class lineman, step 1 is where you start. Third class or second class lineman, step 5, I believe it is the last step before you become a first-class lineman. So while you're in school, yes, it's an automatic bump up because you've completed the required schooling and you've completed the amount of time you're supposed to be there. However, once you hit that step 5 position, it states in their contract that there has to be a first-class lineman position available within the department in order for them to become a first-class lineman. So say they already had the required 4 or 6 or however many of them that they needed, and there wasn't a retirement in the future that they knew of, they would remain at that second-class lineman, step 5 position until somebody retired, then they would become a first-class lineman.
How many steps are there within each grade?
So there's 5 total steps prior to becoming a first-class lineman. And then from first-class lineman, it goes to chief lineman, foreman, and then
He's third class. So how many steps within third class? Is it steps?
this is the last step. of
Okay,
third
then he
class.
would go to
Second class, step
second
4.
class lineman. Okay,
Problem is, you have to be a journeyman to do call-ups.
right.
That's always the problem. And if we
You gotta
didn't, a
spend
couple
time
years
in
ago,
right?
a couple years ago, we didn't have enough people to do call-ups. Come next August, we're gonna have plenty,
Mhm.
in my opinion, not necessarily Kimball's opinion.
Well, and the other thing was that
Because
every,
Ryan, but both be there to be linemen by next.
and every utility was looking for people. And I think we looked at, Upper Lake was paying a little bit more than we were. National Grid want to hire guys, North Line,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
they were,
Northland pays a lot more,
yeah,
but they have to then travel. We're here, you just stay put, so you have to pay more if you travel.
but even Upper Lake, I think.
Yeah,
was
so
paying
it's
more.
never, in my opinion, it's not the lineman position, because that's what you have to pay. But it's the groundsman and the meter
Guy.
first people that the base pay are way higher than market rate. In my
It won't
opinion.
be for much longer. Wages keep going up.
Well,
It's gonna be, it's gonna be the market.
we're here now. What's going to happen in 3 years if we're not?
Kimball actually did a really nice spreadsheet, if you want me to send it to you, that he had given to us when we had our last meeting about wages and reopening a contract or whatever, that shows where we are in line with everybody else. I'd be more than happy to send it to you, or go over any of it if you want to see it,
No,
as far as wages go.
Yes, it's scary.
It's a situation.
Yeah, it is.
But we're underpaying in some,
Job titles.
yes, and over in others, in comparison to,
Within each department or once the specific department of the
no,
electric?
within the electric. So if you take different munis, every year the MUA puts out a salary and wage report. So you can look at every different municipality that has an electric department and see where we line up with groundsmen, where we line up with foreman or journeyman or whatever the case may be. And I will say that Kimball, and I think Patrick helped him out with it, sat down and kind of looked in line with our size, how many customers we have, how many meters we have, and did a cross comparison as to where we line up with certain wages. If we're above or below, we're right around the same amount. I did the same. So
Do they get bumps for longevity?
they get longevity pay after 5 years.
Everybody does.
Yeah, everybody thinks.
Anything else?
Sorry for the long one.
That's okay.
Explanation.
That's just all right.
Did we already have a first and a second?
We did, Peter and Jason.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? I guess that would be aye passes, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And then do we throw in our new police hire
Yeah.
at this point?
Yep,
Okay,
we
put
can do
that on the clerk items.
Yep.
As you know, one of our people had to drop out in the police running, and they diligently went back and found another officer that is interested. Is that Ian Gordon?
Yep.
And he's been vetted. At this point, I think it's, the proposal would still be passing our psych evaluation and our medical.
Right.
But as of this point, I believe he did start today.
Yes.
That's, we said, that's always the problem. The lists come out by the time you have a chance to vet people. The academy is starting and you just have to move so fast, but hopefully you've all had a chance to read his questionnaire from the village.
To be probationary.
6 months probation, right? Do I hear a motion to accept Ian Gordon?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Votes aye as well. Okay. Treasury items.
Actually, there's one more item.
I'm sorry.
That's
Do you have anything
okay.
else to come before? the board
One more
tonight?
item. Now that we did the bond resolution tonight, we can go back and revisit Justin's request from 2 weeks ago to approve the bid
On the fire
On
truck,
fire.
on the fire truck, KME.
award the bid on the fire
I'll
truck.
make a motion to award the bid on the KME fire truck.
The lowest responsible bidder.
Lowest responsible bidder.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye as well.
And now I know.
Okay. Treasury items. Warrant affidavit number 6. I believe, Peter, you reviewed those. Do I have a motion to accept them? Second. All in favor? Anything else to come before
It's,
treasury?
Essex County Public Transportation, $15,070, I believe it was.
Yep.
Was that for our experiment with the
Yes.
trolley?
Yep.
That was a one-time, that was
Yes.
it for the,
That was always.
Yeah, it wasn't so much an experiment as it allowed Kabricki to keep working.
yeah, oh, I
But it was also,
Yeah, yeah,
I couldn't get it, right?
Yeah,
it was
that was
also-
the bill.
But it was one payment for the
Yes.
whole entire thing. Okay,
Yep.
that's what process.
and that was about a tenth of what the private
Oh,
industry.
yeah.
I think that was a heck of a bargain. Thank you very much to Maureen Abrams and the county.
Awarded it.
It's like that.
Anything else from the?
No, I don't know anything.
Okay.
What was Thomas West, the library? That was like 15, it was just so odd. Remember that? No, it was Western, and it said, it had something to do with the library. Yeah. It was like $2,100.
Hang on a minute.
No, it wasn't Thomas Long. This was Thomas and West, and it said library. It was just weird.
You need to review the warrant now.
Yeah.
Because when you ask
Then you
questions,
vote,
I
we
got it
vote.
in front of
The
me.
motion second, we talked about it.
Oh, that, I don't remember what it was coded to.
Library plan charges, 730, well, wait, there's two, contractual services. Library plan charge?
Yeah, or was that West Publications? Did
It is,
Yeah.
You buy books, you buy,
Oh,
you buy
okay,
the
fine.
For the
statutes,
PD?
maybe for the PD or for, probably
Yeah, I got coded to the PD for
Okay.
contractual.
West Publications probably. That what
Thank
it
you.
is?
Yeah.
I thought we were paying
Thanks,
library.
Oh, we're doing about $600. What are you doing?
I know where the money goes.
The Kindle went right now. Oh, nice.
I think it's probably.
That's a
Might
music
even be an
analyzer.
online subscription.
Any new business to come
Better
before? the board?
better get your money out of your piggy bank. Pay for these things.
Going once? Any new business? And under old business, appears we have to set the date for the cannabis retail and on-site consumption. Janet, you want to? Go through the
So I think,
process there.
I think we've ironed out the timing so that if the board chooses to to pass a resolution to have the permissive referendum, instead of requiring that there be a petition presented to the board by 20% of the electors who participated or who are eligible for the last general election. That, of course, so that's one method, is that people would have to sign a petition, you'd get the required number of signatures, and they force the referendum. The board on its own accord can move by resolution to hold the referendum. The timing is a little bit tricky because of the time that can or cannot expire between the passage of the law and the holding of the referendum. So in any event, you have to have a public hearing before you pass the local law. The local law has to be, if you opt out, decide to opt out, has to be passed in this year. So it would have to be passed probably in late December. So that would mean then the permissive referendum could take place,
January.
no, in March.
Oh, yes, right.
In March.
The
Yes,
resolution for it would take place in January.
correct. So that you pass the local law, then you pass the resolution in January to, basically, they call it pushing it to the public. And
And then you have 60
the
days.
referendum would then be held in conjunction with the special election that's being held in March for the justice position.
Trustee position.
Oh,
Can I
yes, sir.
borrow part of your brain and how that whole thing works?
Well, I had a lot of help figuring that one out. So my suggestion is that you can hold the public hearing November 15th meeting. You don't always act on a local law the same night you hold the public hearing.
Right.
And because I think, Mayor, you're away.
Yes,
You're away that first meeting in December. So then maybe you'd pass the local law at the second meeting. in
You're going to be
December.
I think he's away the second meeting in December.
I'm going to be away at
that's the
the
15th, that's what you talked
The
about.
I'm talking
19th.
about December.
The first meeting,
Yeah, I think so too. It's this, you're away the second in December.
Isn't this the first meeting in November?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
December.
December. Are you,
We jumped a month.
oh,
But I think then you might have to hold a special meeting, or Art just wouldn't be here to
Well,
run the meeting.
We just have to make sure Peter's here, because if Peter's not, then we can't hold the meeting.
Right,
I won't be here the 20th. I'll be coming back from December, yeah.
It should be here on the 15th, correct?
Yes.
I take it that's the second.
yeah, I think we might have to.
Well,
do it
the
later.
15th is a
We'll have to
Wednesday.
do we'll have to do the counting of
Right.
days.
Yeah, I mean, at any rate, we can still do the public hearing at this coming meeting.
Yes.
Everyone will be here.
2 weeks.
There's no, like, period of time that you have to vote?
No,
No.
no, because like tonight, we passed the smoking one when we had the public hearing at least a month ago.
More than that.
Yeah.
No, all you have to do is hold the public hearing and then vote on it some later date. You know, the reason for public hearing is, of course, if you get a lot of input, you want to make changes.
Right.
If there's substantial changes, then you have to hold another public hearing on it.
Okay, so what we need to do tonight is,
Set the date for
for
the
the public hearing.
If,
And-
and Anita, so the recommendation has been to pass two local laws. One that would address the retail sales and one that would address the
On-site
on-premise,
consumption.
on-site consumption. Then you have two referendum, maybe one would pass, maybe one
Yeah,
wouldn't.
because I think that's how it went in Keene.
And Anita would have to get the notice
Mm,
in the paper
Yeah.
this week,
Yeah, I can do that.
And that will be then for
if you
November.
want to. for
November
November
15th.
Right, exactly, if everyone agrees to that date for a public hearing.
That's just the public hearing, you don't vote on it.
Right, we have to be careful of the timing of the vote, otherwise we can't put this
So
on.
December is the 6th and 13th, 6th and the 20th, sorry.
Right, and I think the 20th is when you're on your second trip.
We'll
So
have
I'll be
to-
coming back, but I don't think I'll make it back in time. So it's good.
We can still figure that part
So
out.
we have to have the vote on the 20th?
Yeah, so I think you push it the latest you can.
Yeah,
Yeah, for now, we'll get the public hearing and then
Yeah.
we'll work out. the
Or a
details.
special meeting?
might work with the 6th. We'll
But we also
look at the
want to make
dates.
sure, yeah,
Christmas Day.
because the local law can't become effective until the later of the 30 days for the permissive referendum or something. So it's not going to be effective anyway after you pass it.
I can always zoom in at midnight. How well did that work for you, Peter?
Gosh, I didn't know it was
One
him.
meeting really well, another meeting terrible. The Wi-Fi signal.
I remember that one. Okay, so at this point, then we need to have a motion to
Is that the
close,
public hearing?
and that's for the 15th of November. And that's for both public hearings, correct? We do those once.
Well, you open one, close it, open the other, close it.
Right, but the motion to set, and we can do them both at
Yeah.
once.
And you think you can get it in the paper this week?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they were kind of, the last one we tried to do, they said too late, so sorry.
It varies. I think it'll be fine.
Okay.
I got one in last week within like 48
Okay.
hours, so.
So you need a motion. I'll make the motion.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there anything else to come up under old business? Okay. Nothing under mayor items this evening.
And we just had our meeting, or,
I'm going to bring it up under commissioner reports.
okay.
Would you like to give that, or would you like me to? Feel free. We had a construction meeting this morning at 10, and everything is going really well is the bottom line. Let's face it, we have a really good construction company. We've had really good weather. We've had really cooperative people on Main Street. Well, I mean, given what we've had, I mean, people have had valid complaints. We've had to work around them, but it's been a really good partnership. At this point, they're working on the bump outs at the crosswalks. I believe today, the electric department started putting in poles, and they'll be putting lighting on Main Street again on the north end. The pay stations are in the process of working to go back in, I believe, this week.
Yeah, the
In the
guys
bump outs.
actually got the dimensions for the pads, so they're gonna start pouring pads.
Late in the week.
The latest they said they were going to work, depending on weather, was November 23rd. And they could get closed down before that, depending on the weather. But if not, they're going to plan on going as far as they can or stop at the 23rd. And then at that point, they will suspend their DOT work permit in the street and we'll go back to two-way traffic. Or if they get closed down a week earlier, the same thing will happen. At this point,
Some things that have to get finished, like filling in the bump outs so that it's not dangerous all winter.
right, but they're working on that now. Also, they are going to be finishing the trench lines for the surface water south of NBT, which is going down towards the post office. All the surface water in there, what they're trying to do is they're going to finish it all this fall. Yeah,
Stormwater.
which didn't, I mean, this is a big step. I think things are going really well.
Is that on your parking lot?
Maybe next week.
Are you talking about Lake Holderee?
Very cold. There was no, it had nowhere to go.
I know.
Now you have property on 3 bodies of water.
And also the group that's putting in the granite sidewalks has been working, and they will now continue down from Brewster Park to Mids Park.
They
And
started Mids Park and they're going backwards.
are they going to?
They got one done.
Okay. And it's going to actually not Mids Park, it's in front of the Bear House where they're working. They're not going to do anything in front of the,
Yeah.
and then also on the sidewalks south of the NBT parking lot where they have pulled, or I'm sorry, between Mids Park and NBT where they have pulled some of the bricks up to put the curbing in. They will not be raking the bricks out. They will be leaving those and putting blacktop in to match up that 18-inch,
Just for the winter.
just for the winter, right? Hard surface, they call it.
So they're starting at Mids Park, hoping, is it completed past Just Beat It per se?
Well, they're going to go. I mean, the other thing that I think can happen too is that that's not in the road, just like Saranac Avenue wasn't, correct? So I think the detour could go away. I mean, these guys could actually keep working, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
Bruce?
Yes. I mean, they're not in the highway.
I said that and they said they're gonna finish at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, those guys move fast. The only thing that stops blue spruce, which is the granite layers of the sidewalk, is having structures in place and having things ready to go. And I believe the reason then they must have started the Bear House was so that the structural work on the buildings could be finished at the other end. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it was a job. They still didn't finish. Okay.
Yeah,
We're doing
but
this
putting
job.
down the granite curbing, that's what, I mean, they need a truck, they need to stop
The
traffic.
curbing's done.
Oh, is all the curbing
Yeah.
done?
The
Yeah.
curbing's done for this
The
year.
curbing's actually all the way done down to NVT, correct?
Oh, I only noticed.
That's
that.
why we have it, yeah.
So the part in front of Starbucks, that's gonna be a problem all the way. Because there's no curbing.
Oh.
It's gonna be very difficult to plow, to clean. But, you know, it's what it is. That's it.
So I
And
mean,
the-
that MZMT trackless thingy or whatever it's called. Hopefully that helps.
And they're also going to be doing
This
some
is special
landscaping
machine
work,
we bought in the bond.
mostly in the NVT parking lot against the.
To handle the granite.
To clean around the bump
With
out.
stone walls put in, and also on the corner of the new wall.
It's a nifty little machine.
Is Bruce gonna drive?
So, you know, there's gaps in the granite. What's,
It's permeable, permeable.
I know, but remember we had the problem with the other, because when the sweeper, it swept that.
Yeah, but this is, if you look at the way it's lined up, they wanted to do it the other way, the long way, but we didn't let them, so that they would, the seams break at every, otherwise it would sweep out the stuff.
Okay. Okay.
That was, made a lot more work for Blue Spruce, but too bad so sad.
I wouldn't want to get in a fight with one of those guys that carries that granite. I mean, they grab a hold of that thing and just haul it. I couldn't even imagine. Well, it's nuts.
And when asked today, what percentage do you feel this project is done, we were told 70%. So for a project that was supposed to be 3 years, to have 70% done in the first season, like I say, it all comes back to everyone with the county bus helping us so we could go through July and August with the practice areas, which is the bioretention. I mean, all that made a difference, and the good weather and the people and not having major problems. So if, you know, you can't quote them on this, but they said that by Memorial Day, it's pretty much going to be done. It's just going to be into the punch
No,
list.
before shutdown in the summer.
Mhm.
It's gonna be- Except for
He
finish
mentioned
paving.
pretty much by Memorial Day, they'd be done. I mean, the majority he thought would be done if they can get started this spring.
Yeah.
And, you know, they'll be in the little areas where they've got to do a little bit of work here, a little bit there.
Yeah.
And they're also going to be striping the lines. They say that was
They
starting
They
today?
started today.
They did, okay.
They did the center line, and they were working on parking spaces this afternoon.
How late did they blacktop on Friday?
It was late.
It was, I mean,
Yeah.
it was concrete down here and it was blacktop up there.
And I don't know if you heard
They
about.
got shut down because it was dark.
Well, it was dark when they were working.
But they can't work past a certain darkness, or I don't know.
DOT.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard about the blacktop spill.
No.
I was coming home from dinner, it was late, and coming down Hillcrest, and
Oh, I did hear about that.
there was
Right down the middle.
blacktop, yeah, all
Yeah.
over the road. I mean, you had to drive in it. I called Brad quickly, and they sent that big broom truck they have up there. Apparently, one of the tandem trucks that has a conveyor belt inside to bring the blacktop up hadn't fully dumped its load, but they moved it on to bring another truck in.
The guy forgot to turn the.
Yeah.
Well,
conveyor on.
he didn't shut the conveyor off, and what they surmised is that it hit a bump and stuff fell down on the sides, and when it did, it just spread it all the way down, and then all the way down the hill and over to get back in line again. But they caught it quickly and cleaned it up. But just in case anyone asks what happened, when you think about it, knock on wood, to have that be the biggest and only problem we've had so far, that's really the trucking, not the Kabricki.
Mhm.
It's really, really an accomplishment. Did I forget anything, Peter? So,
Do you just want to mention the meeting that we had with,
sure. We have had people call with concerns you're talking about with Greenwood. We've had people that have called with concern from Greenwood, and I don't want to say a lot on that, but we have two of the representatives, I believe it was the vice president. And what was the other gal's?
she was the regional manager.
Regional manager. And they told us about what's up and coming, that there's going to be a new owner January 1st. The new owner has plans to do a lot of renovations, and things are being held off until then. They did have a chance to talk with our police department, which was good open dialogue. and get access to their cameras, so when they have security problems. And overall, it was a good first meeting. A lot of people had a chance to exchange numbers and positive first step. But it was very nice of them to respond to your nice letter, and
Who else was there? Was Billy there?
Yeah, Billy and Chuck. I think what I came away being really surprised was that our PD didn't know that they had cameras. I mean, I think we did open the line of communication and
phone number exchange.
yeah. Hearing after the fact, people who didn't want to come forward, who mentioned, I mean, they're suspect of the regional manager, but that's neither here nor there. But.
I think the bigger thing is now we have access to their cameras.
That's correct. And we know who they are, they know who we are. You know, we can at least, if things get better, that's great. If things don't move along, we can reach out to them again to say, you know, what more can we do?
Well, and actually the vice president said, why don't we meet quarterly?
Yeah.
And I suggested, let's wait half a year at least to give them a chance with the new owner and see what's happening. So in the spring, we will revisit this, and hopefully everyone can work to making this the treasure that it used to be.
Is the same management company going to work for the new owner?
Yes, I believe so.
That was all.
Right? It's a lot better than not having had any communication at all, so I thought it was a positive step.
Right, we didn't even think they'd respond.
No, it was like a to whom it may concern letter to, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess what? They responded.
Mhm.
Okay, nothing else under commissioner reports? Okay, it's gonna be a short public comment today. I see we have nobody online. So I guess at this point, it's time for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Can't believe it's November.